Good morning. We'll call the meeting to order. We respectfully acknowledge that the Township of Algonquin Highlands is located on Treaty 20 Mississauga territory and in the traditional territory of the Mississauga and Chippewa Nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations. We also acknowledge a historical shared presence of other Indigenous nations throughout the area, and we recognize these original inhabitants as the stewards of its lands and waters since time immemorial. Could I have a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda today? Councillor Short-Reed and Deputy Mayor Dayu.
Moved by Councillor Short-Reed, seconded by Deputy Mayor Dayu. Be it resolved, the May 7th, 2026 agenda be approved as circulated.
All in favor? That's carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Hearing none. Could I have a mover and a seconder to adopt the minutes of April the 16th and the public meeting minutes as well? Deputy Mayor Dayu, Councillor Short-Reed.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Dayu, seconded by Councillor Short-Reed. Be it resolved, the April 16th regular and public meeting minutes be approved as circulated.
All in favor? That's carried. So we have two delegations today. First up is Mr. William Hatton, who would like to speak to the maintenance of the 30th line. If you'd like to come forward to the microphone, sir.
Thanks for having me. You got a copy of the letter that I sent?
Yes, we do.
So you kind of understand.
But if you'd like to speak to it,
Sorry?
if you'd like to speak to it,
Yeah, I've been, well, I bought the property back in 2007. I paid off all the back taxes. I think they're around $20,000. I was speaking to Don and because I'm living back there and it's quite a struggle getting in and out of there. You know, it's not just the snow. I have pictures of the road from a couple weeks ago. There's no drainage on each side for ditches. The culverts are undersized. So when we got all that rain and had the snow, it blew the road out in multiple sections. And, you know, I'm the guy that has to go back there and fix it up so I can get out, you know, so I can get groceries. I can take my waste to the dump. So it's very difficult. And when I was speaking to Dawn, she said, well, Mr. Hatton, you realize that when you bought it, it wasn't maintained. And I said, yes, I do. But since then, I've invested quite a bit of money and my taxes have reflected those investments. I built a home back there because it was vacant land. I brought in a hydro line down the 30th line, or sorry, the Irish line. Cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars. And one of my neighbors have tapped into that line. That tells me that they want to build back there. So I've done all these investments and my taxes have, I think, gone up 800% since all those investments. I bought it, but none of my services have changed. And it's the same thing. Like there's constantly trees fall, I go clean them up. You know, the grader goes down there maybe once or twice. And then I have to, because I have some low profile cars, I have to go down the Irish line because there's these rocks that pop out of the ground and chuck those to the side. And when the culverts blow out or there's the roads washed out, I have to get on a piece of my equipment and deal with that. And if you look at it a little different, I think there's an opportunity for development on that road. And if the road was maintained year round, a lot of people have large properties there. And I think you'd start to see people subdividing those lots off for profit. And you're going to start to see some development back there. But the road needs to be maintained all year. And like I said, I brought the hydro into the back of it, and then you've got the hydro out by the hydro line. And, you know, even myself, if it was maintained, because I have a large frontage, I would consider severing some lots off, you know, for profit. But I've been back there 2 years and it's a real struggle going in and out. Would you like to see some pictures from a couple weeks ago?
I think that should have been part of maybe of of these materials submitted to us at the time of requesting the delegation.
It happened before I sent the letter, and it's like it's a recurring basis. Like I said, the culverts are undersized. There's no proper drainage. So when the rain and the snow melt, they run off the banks and they go right onto the road and they blow it out down the middle. And you like, I had to leave my pickup truck out by the highway for a couple weeks and bring my garbage in and out with a quad. And I had to get groceries. The other thing too, living back there, I need propane back there, and I need heat, you know, to heat my home. So I need a propane truck back there, at least once or twice a year to get my tanks topped up, and I can't do that.
Do
I have to
members,
switch to electric heat, right? So when I run out of propane.
do members of council have any questions for Mr. Hutton? I guess, so in response to your request, first of all, we'll have to have our Public Works manager give us a report on status of the road and what his recommendations are. One comment that I would make is that you've made the decisions to make investments on that road, knowing that it was a seasonally maintained road. So that's something that, you have to assume responsibility for yourself. But in the meantime, we will have our Public Works manager bring a report back to us with recommendations about what we might do. Point well taken, about the possibility of future development on the road. But it's also the only other point that I would make is that it is part of the official Snowmobile Association's trail system.
It's a feeder trail.
I beg your pardon?
It's a feeder trail. It's not a main trail. It's not like a B trail, for example.
What it is part of their trail
I
system and
understand
is
that.
maintained
But-
by,
The snowmobile club, do they pay property taxes?
I'm not going to respond to that. I understand that there are some issues and have been some issues between yourself and the Snowmobile Association, so
I haven't spoken to the Snowmobile Association.
well, maybe you should have.
I'm a snowmobiler. I
At any rate, we will have a look at your circumstances and ask for a report to be brought back to council to consider your request.
okay. Is there some kind of timeline?
That's up to the, it would be reasonably quickly,
Okay.
but there are other responsibilities and priorities that we've got. So I would say within the next couple of meetings, we would have a report back.
And the other thing too, like I'm getting older, right? So the other thing too is my
Sorry.
emergency services. For example, if I were to have a heart attack or a situation, I'd like, and I pay into it, I'd like to have an ambulance pick me up. Not, I don't.
I understand your concerns. It is also part of your having made a decision to move on to and build on a seasonally maintained road.
Yeah, I just don't think the taxes that I pay reflect the services that I'm getting back there. Like I'm paying around $4,400 a year, and I only have access to my place 6 months of the year. That's quite a lot of money.
We're not responsible for doing the assessments on the properties.
Yeah.
That's an outside organization that does that. And I'm fairly certain that it would reflect the fact that you're living on a seasonal road. But that's something that's out of our hands.
Well, I think it's because I spent hundreds of thousands bringing in utilities, which obviously increased my property values, right? And the thing, the point being is when you make the investments, right, everything goes up. So if you were to maintain the road, not just my property, they'd probably go over 5,000 a year, but everybody else's property taxes would go up because it's maintained. It adds value to the property. And when taxes go up, it's good for you guys, right? To help maintain the township.
All I can do at this point in time is say thank you for raising your concerns.
Thank you
We
for
will
having
be
me.
taking them into consideration and we'll ask for a report to come back with some recommendations.
I look forward to it.
Beg your pardon?
I look forward to it.
Okay, thank you,
Okay.
sir.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure meeting everybody.
Thank you.
Take care and have a wonderful day. Bye.
Next up are Shelley. Oh, sorry. Could I have a mover and a seconder to receive the delegation? Councillor Shortreed and Deputy Mayor Dayu.
Moved by Councillor Shortreed, second by Deputy Mayor Dayu. Be it resolved, Council receives a delegation from William Hatton regarding maintenance of the 30th line for information, and Council directs staff to bring back a report.
All in favor? That's carried. So next up is Shelley Fellows and Beth Carey from the Halls Hawk Lakes Property Owners Association to speak to us about the work that they've done on a source water protection plan. And before you get going, I'd really like to congratulate you on the work that you've done, the dedication that you've shown to the health of your lakes. And, this is just a really great example of a good, solid partnership. So well done. And over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor Danielson. Hello, Deputy Mayor Dayu, member of council.
Counselor Shortreed.
Normally, I would say members of council, but and administration. Thank you for allowing us to speak to you this morning about our drinking water source protection plan. As you mentioned, Mayor Danielson, it has been a collaboration, a team effort, and something that we're very proud of. It's also 39 or 40 pages long, so I apologize for the reading material in your meeting package. But
all good
every
info.
single word, much like every single drop, was important to us. Next slide, please. So our goal with this plan was to understand, identify, and communicate where we as individual property owners are within the wider region, what makes Halls Lake, that was the focus for our plan, what makes Halls Lake unique, why protecting our drinking water is important, and what responsibilities we have as property owners to protect our drinking water. While we usually experience our area from the boundaries of our property, we are connected to the wider land between. We live in a special area and rely on a precious natural resource, water, to sustain us. We have a responsibility to protect it because the individual choices that we make affect it. Next slide, please. In the summer of 2025, the Halls Hawk Lake Property Owners Association, HHLPOA, was selected by FOCA to take part in a limited pilot project to develop a source water protection plan. We formed a working group made up of volunteers from the community, mentored by Terry Reese from FOCA. Many of you will know Terry from his days leading FOCA, and joined by community partners like ULinks and Algonquin Highlands. Councillor Richards was part of our working group. We released a survey to the community, mapped our watershed and drinking water sources and systems, which are primarily surface water or pumping from the lake or river and groundwater or wells. We used publicly available data to describe and understand the geology, the geography, the hydrology, the chemistry. There was a lot of science over the winter. We also looked at the health of our surface and groundwater, and then looked at it through a lens of vulnerability to a range of threats to our drinking water quality. We wrapped it up by identifying steps that property owners can take to protect our drinking water, and we compiled it into our drinking water source protection plan that we released in February of this year. Next slide, please. As part of our process, we looked at provincially designated threats through the Clean Water Act, as well as things called undesignated threats for both surface and groundwater. The top 4 designated threats, according to the Clean Water Act and our assessment, were activities that reduce aquifer recharge, things like increased residential development and destruction of wetlands, septic system use. 85% of people who responded to our survey use septic systems. Use of road salt. Unique to Halls Lake is that Highway 35 borders part of Halls Lake, on which there is substantial road salt use in the winter, thankfully, and use of pesticides and fertilizers. In terms of undesignated threats, so these are threats not listed specifically by the Clean Water Act, were excessive boat wakes, shoreline erosion, infrastructure like the Halls Lake Causeway, if anyone is familiar with the causeway connecting the island to the mainland on Halls Lake, climate change, and not unsurprising, the Canada goose. These threats can all result in contamination of surface and groundwater, which is our drinking water, with things like chemicals, microorganisms, and organic matter. Did I miss anything, Beth? Okay. Next slide, please. So as part of the plan, we made recommendations for what property owners should do to protect their drinking water sources, especially within 120 meters of the shoreline and 100 meters of a wellhead. First thing they should do is support the HHLPOA and our lake water quality monitoring activities. They need to maintain their wells. About a third of our survey respondents got their water from a well. Naturalize their properties, especially their shorelines, but their properties. Inspect and maintain their septic systems regularly and supported by the septic reinspection program from the municipality. This was shocking. They need to test and treat their drinking water. 55% of the people who, and there were 168 respondents to our survey, 55%, over half, never test their drinking water. Never. Boat safely, not just speed and wakes near the shoreline, but also refueling. Manage Canada geese. Again, shoreline naturalization plays a part in that. Monitor for blue-green algae. Support the Trent Severn Waterway system, and connect with and support Algonquin Highlands. Next slide, please. We must continue working together. The Halshawk Lake Property Owners Association will continue to communicate with property owners about the Drinking Water Source Protection Plan. Every drop matters. We also identified some gaps in data for Halls Lake and for our region, so we'll be supporting future research, looking into other areas of vulnerability and understanding some of the threats to our system and what we can do. We also received a generous grant from FOCA. So we plan to invest it in creative ways to communicate and educate property owners. One, an ask for today is we hope to receive approval to purchase and plant native shrubs into the shoreline at Elvin Johnson Park on May 23rd. And the reason for that date is that we're holding a native tree and shrub sale on May 23rd. And we can use this not only as an opportunity to build up some of the thinning vegetation on the shoreline of Elvin Johnson Park, deterring the Canada geese who love to come and poop on the beach and the grass. But we can also use it to demonstrate how easy it is to plant in native trees and shrubs to the people who come to our sale. We'd also like to add to the signage in the park to explain the reasons for drinking water protection. And we can do that with the funds from FOCA.
Yeah, I'm just gonna back up. So if the geese, if you plant like this and then another group like this, the geese can't see the grass. And if they can't see the grass, they don't come up. So it is that trying to create a block. So it's not only in Elvin Johnson Park, but if we can teach people on the lake, gee, if you just do this, instead of putting all these strings and things across your beach front, you won't have the geese.
Mhm.
And if we can do that through education, but also through planting, it will hopefully deter them.
Yeah, could be very powerful.
Yeah.
We plan to institute a water guardian program where individuals who pledge to take specific actions to protect water quality will be recognized. We're looking at having medallions made that they can display as part of that program. Again, thanks to the funds from FOCA. So this is the last slide, I believe. So thank you for the opportunity to present the plan. Thank you for your partnership and support in this. Know that we will continue to work with Algonquin Highlands. We are pleased with the support that we've received. And we hope to receive approval and direction regarding our planting demonstration on May 23rd at Elvin Johnson Park. Thank you.
Thank you. A couple of comments before I, turn over to council to see if they have any questions or comments to make. It did look like in the document that you sent us that it was unclear that we're going to continue with the septic inspection program, and we have agreed to do that. That will be moving forward, although it's now going to be in-house as opposed to a contracted service. So, we're committed to doing that. One of the things that we are also considering, given that shoreline protection has primarily been managed through the county, is taking on that responsibility to manage shoreline preservation and protection. Um, although it's a discussion that council needs to have, your point about bylaw enforcement is well taken. I can see that in many instances the relying on people to make complaints, and folks are very reluctant to do that, sometimes even fearful, that we maybe need to have a look at maybe doing a little bit of a changeover in our approach to bylaw enforcement. But I can't commit to that because that's a council decision overall. I do know that our Public Works Department looks very carefully at salt management and everything that we can do to reduce the harm that can be caused by salt. But it's a fine balance between safety of the roads and environmental protection. But that is something that's always high on the list of things that we look at. And I know that the Ontario Good Roads Association is always looking at alternate methods, some which have proved to be successful and some not so successful. You've made a point about wanting to have input into our official plan and zoning bylaw process, and that is something that, of course, is always available. Whenever we do a new official plan or zoning bylaw, that's open to the public, open for comments, and you're absolutely welcome to have input into that process. One of the things that I would say is that there has been some discussion between the county and the lower tiers that we're looking at a single official plan. But that process would still be there. It is absolutely a requirement for public meetings and for public to have input into that process. So that would not change. But we'll have to see how that falls out. There was also a suggestion that we register with the federal government for wake management. And I know that, wake is the wake issue is a serious problem, for our shorelines. My concern with that is how we would manage and enforce that. It's a very difficult thing. We hear from I know it's a separate issue, but we hear from the OPP, when they try and do patrols of the lakes, that, the minute the OPP show up, everybody on the lake just disappears. And then go back into the lake as soon as the OPP are gone. And, so, I mean, I'm afraid that we would run into a similar situation. It is something that we can look into if that is council's desire, but enforcement of wake management and speeds on the lakes are, that's something that's going to be a real challenge. With respect to the work that you want to do on at Elvin Johnson Park, the last project that was headed by your association worked very well. It was a great partnership between the township and your association. I would say that it is something that you need to coordinate with our manager of Parks and Recreation. And hopefully you maybe be able to give us a bit of a plan on, what you're proposing to plant there and how you're going to do that. It's a bit of tight timing, but we do have a meeting on the 21st. So, I think that, if depending on how your discussions go with Mr. Card, I don't see that is going to be a problem. But, I would look to our CAO to see if there's anything else about that we need to think about.
No, I don't think so, Madam Mayor. If council's looking for a diagram and I assume then council will be providing approval then on whatever's provided.
I'm assuming that you have spoken to possibly Sandra in Dorset about your plant sale, just because that's an event that you're planning on having. Have you,
No,
well, that's something that, you know, if you're coordinating the planting, the plant sale too, I mean, anytime you're having an event in the park
Mhm.
like that,
Mhm.
it's probably a good idea to contact Sandra Rogers and just let her know that that's the plan.
okay. That's a new name to me.
Um, it's interesting to see, you know, the work that you have done has led you to a bit of a change in perspective about several things.
Mhm.
One being the parking,
Mhm.
and the concerns that you have about widening of the Big Hawk Lake Road, and also the perspective on the landfill. That, you know, initially you were very concerned about keeping it open, and now it's seen as this could be a bit of an issue for Halls Lake. So it's just interesting to see the work that you've done and how that may have changed your perspective on things. So I guess I would turn it over to council to see if you have any questions or comments. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Angie.
Just a couple of things, Madam Mayor, is, on the signage, is council going to be looking for the same, for a sample of the signage to approve? I assume.
Thank you. That was one of the things that the sign that is there doesn't appear to be in bad condition. So what I'm hearing is you want to do a different sign with different information. So that is something that we would want to see and provide approval on before it was installed.
It might be more looking at education,
Mhm.
Mhm.
because that's gonna be the key, is to educate everyone around the lake. You don't want geese, here's what you can do,
Mhm.
you know.
Here's what you
have
can
a
do to
boat,
reduce the problem.
Here's
Mhm.
what you can do.
Mhm.
So I think education is the key that's gonna.
So just, you know, if you could bring something back to us at the same time, you know, for our May 21st meeting, that would be great. And hopefully we can give you the go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
And if I may, the second question, or I guess just clarification really is, so we don't book our parks. So we just want to, it certainly if we can let Sandra know that that's happening, but there's no requirement for them to book it. That's all. We just wanted to provide that clarification.
And thank you. I do provide a list of the HHLPOA events that are planned on taking part on any township property. I think I sent it out in March along with our certificate of insurance. So
Okay, that's great.
yeah.
Comments? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Ndayu.
These types of initiatives bring me such joy, such joy. And the mayor has gone through a fairly comprehensive list of comments, and I won't repeat anything that she said. The only thing I would add is our Environment and Stewardship Committee, which looks at obviously environmental issues across the township. I think we've got a lot to learn from your experience here, because you're really doing it.
Mhm.
And the model of of the water guardian and looking to reward after education and recognize what people are doing on an ongoing basis. I think there's some real scale up potential here, and I'm delighted that you're seeing or that you're documenting what you're doing, because it's easier if you're in agreement, you know, maybe in a future year to take it to other lake associations and say, look at what's been achieved here, and would you be interested in doing the same? I think it's a beautiful job, and I'm very much in support of the planting in Alvin Johnson. I think that's great, and you know, recognizing that people need access to swim, and like there are some human practicalities there, but love the idea of the planting, and obviously the expertise is in very good hands. So I'm fully in support. It's great.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Shortreed.
And just to add to that, a really good reminder to test your drinking water. I think people have forgotten the past and
Mhm.
things that have happened, and it is really, really important.
Mhm.
That's one key thing I think we need to remind everybody of, is to test your drinking water.
Great reminders for me, because although I have a drilled well, I'm pretty sure that my water's coming from Halls Lake.
Yeah.
So, You know, again, I can't say enough about how much we appreciate the work that you've done, your level of commitment to the health of your lakes. And, you know, this has been a very, very substantial project that you've been working on, and it's much appreciated. Hopefully, you know, I know it is a bit of a tight timeline, but hopefully you'll be able to get the information about the planting and the sign to us before our March 21st meeting, May 21st meeting. You know, so you can maintain the schedule that you've got. And I mean, you're welcome to come back to us on that date if you wish, but you know, I think if you've given the information to Chris and he's satisfied with it, we're probably, it's not necessary, but as I say, you're always welcome to come back.
Thank you. I'll actually be in a vehicle going down to pick up trees and shrubs on Thursday, the 21st for the plant sale.
Well, and that's another thing it's, you know, it's really good to see that you're having a plant sale and that,
Mhm.
you know, offering up plants that are, you know, native to the area and most appropriate for use in shoreline protection.
Mhm.
Did you have another comment? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Dayu.
Thank you. Just a final follow-up question regarding the Water Guardian program. Could you just tell me a bit about pesticide use and how it fits in, or if it fits into the recognition of water guardianship?
Absolutely. Through you, Madam Mayor. So that was one of the identified more significant undesignated threats. So in those two categories of threats to our water quality and drinking water, that was one of them.
And where some of the problem exists is again needed through education is someone says, oh, but I use a natural fertilizer. Well, no. And so it is about education, because we do have people that are saying, oh, no, but I use this, and they're doing their lawn, well, they have a lawn, first of all, and then they're spraying and they're doing different things that they think are
Yeah.
natural and it's not. So that's a real key concern.
One example is the fogging for mosquitoes, which we see a lot of signage for, and the companies indicate that it's a plant-based natural product that's used. But it is toxic to all forms of insects. It's indiscriminate. And so in our efforts to reduce the biting insects on our property, we're actually causing larger harm, killing off beneficial insects. And that's one of the things that is monitored as part of our water quality research overall from the HHLPOA. We take a look at the forms of insects that are living in the lake bottom, right? The sediments and the benthic invertebrates that are living in the lake bottom. And that's an indication of lake health. So you can't kill off the insects and still expect your lake to be healthy and the various systems working together.
As we all heard at the recent Lake Stewards meeting from Dr. Norman Yan and his water fleas.
Yes, yes, yes.
One other comment that I did want to make to you is that at this meeting, we had planned on having a discussion about our parking philosophy, and I know that that's something that your association has been very interested in. However, it is something that I felt that, you know, if we're going to talk about a long-term philosophy, we need all members of council, and as you can see, we're a little short on council members today. So we've just deferred some of those discussions until we're all here. Stay tuned on that.
I mentioned that through ULinks, we do have a student doing her thesis on the causeway and checking the bays, and that's going to start this year. So
Oh, we look forward to hearing more about that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
more information that's going to come.
Well, once again, thank you.
Thank you.
And could I have a mover and a seconder to receive the delegation? Deputy Mayor Dayu and seconded by Councillor Short-Reed.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Dayu, seconded by Councillor Short-Reed. Be it resolved, Council receives a delegation from Shelley Fellows and Beth Carey regarding Halls Hawk Lake Property Owners Association Source Water Protection Plan. And Council approves a request to undertake a demonstration planting of native shrubs and flowering plants in consultation with the Parks, Recreation and Trails Manager into the existing shoreline beds at Elba Johnson Park, along with proof of insurance as required by the Township. And that council directs the planting plan be brought back to council at its May 21st, 2026 meeting for approval. And further, that HHLPOA be requested to consult with the Parks, Recreation and Trails Manager regarding the creation of any new sign for Elwin Johnson Park and to be brought back to council for review and consideration.
All in favor? That's carried. So you have no presentations today, nothing under consent agenda. So nothing under bylaw and building. So next up is Parks, Recreation and Trails business. Good morning, Mr. Card.
Good morning, Mayor and Council.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. So before you today is considerations for a library patron passes for the Dorset Tower. So this is something that Deputy Mayor Dayu had a request from the CEO of the Lake of Bays library system, following which she was able to follow up with the CEO of the Haliburton County Public Library. As I understand it, they have a shared circulation or shared membership type process involved between them, which is why the two connected. And what this is requesting is to have similar to what is offered in provincial parks, where library patrons would be able to sign out a pass essentially to the Dorset Tower. So for discussion is whether or not that's something we would like to consider. And if so, I have some questions here as to just what council might want to consider and the direction on that, which would be how many passes we'd like to offer each library system. Should they be limited to a maximum number of circulations? I'd assume that we'd be providing these passes to the libraries for no charge, but that's to be discussed. And then my suggestion is that it would apply to the fee categories that are for essentially non-businesses, which would be vehicles and motorcycles and walk-ins, et cetera, not bus spaces or large vehicle spaces. At the logistical side of things, it's very simple for us to sort out. We would just be able to print and provide a card or a number of cards, depending on how many we'd want to go with to each library system if we wanted to take that direction. They'd just check in with that card on site. During the fall color process, of course, they'd still have to book a time slot, but we could manage that aspect of it as well. So that's the overview, and looking forward to hearing council's thoughts.
I'm sure the Deputy Mayor Dayu will have comments to make about this. I do have a little bit of concern about this. I mean, it's a great idea. However, we have recently had discussions about having different fee levels for those outside of the municipality and those that are residents in the municipality. And this kind of goes against that philosophy that and the fee schedule that we've already set for things like the fitness center, you know, is a good example. I know that this is coming strictly through the library system. But I do have a little bit of a problem. I know that something that we need to do is probably fairly soon have a discussion with Lake of Bays about our service agreements and levels of service agreements. And, you know, I've been rather disappointed in the fact that they have sort of landed a number of responsibilities on us that they just didn't want to be responsible for. And yet we're getting asked to, you know, to do something that reduces our revenue stream. It's not a lot of money, I know that, but I'm glad to hear that you say that, you know, it would not be a problem for you to manage. And I guess I was interested to hearing, you know, that you would have that it would involve some form of sign out system for a pass. But anyway, I would look to Deputy Mayor Dayu to counter some of the arguments that I've made. I just want to remind you that you are one of the members that had suggested we should be looking at different levels of fees for a resident versus non-residents.
Absolutely. I was at the forefront of that charge. I do see this quite differently because there is a long-lasting reciprocal lending agreement between the two library boards. Those in the north, up until very recently, and it's ongoing, those in the north have relied exclusively on the Lake of Bays Library, especially in Dwight, in order to benefit from programs and books and, a place to meet other people and socialize and all of the wonderful things that libraries offer. Ox Tongue Lake and essentially Dorset North, up until a couple of years ago when we brought our library back in Dorset, we're relying entirely on the Lake of Bays system at no charge to them. So this is, or at no charge to the, to our taxpayers, because of this reciprocal understanding. So the library boundaries are a bit different from the typical political jurisdiction. And because they're run by two library boards, it's not really the same as the shared service agreement. At least I would argue it isn't quite the same, because it's a separate board that makes those decisions. It's not Lake Bays Council that makes those decisions. So I'm fully in favor. I think it's a great thing to do. I think, I would love to see increased reciprocal goodness between Lake of Bays and Algonquin Highlands.
I disagree with you there.
Yeah, especially in the Dorset area and in the Dwight Oxtongue Lake area, which is, it's not the same as Dorset in that it's one community with split jurisdiction, but we are all community up there in the north. We don't differentiate between Lake of Bays and Oxtongue. So for me, this sits perfectly with the nature of those communities, and it sits perfectly with where I would like to see us go in terms of working alongside Lake of Bays in the future. So I'm quite happy.
Councillor Shortreed.
I can see going to the library to take out a book that costs $30 because that's expensive, but the tower is only $2.25. I just don't see logistically how it makes a big deal when, if you can't afford to drive there because you have to pay $2.25 to go to the tower. And then what does Lake of Bays offer our residents in a pass form?
I'm kind of, because we had such a healthy discussion about the fee structure and out of town versus local residents, I'm wondering if this isn't something that we should defer until we're all here. Because I can see that, we have kind of some different thoughts here about how to move forward. Like, I'm not necessarily disagreeing with the fact that it's the boundaries are kind of different, the politics are different, that it's the library boards, but when it comes right down to it, the money comes out of taxpayers' pockets, and I'm just wondering whether we should be making a decision today or deferring it until we have more members of council here, because I'm not sure that we would be ready to say, let's go for it today. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's entirely your decision. So for me, it's a slam dunk, but I respect that it isn't for everyone.
Mhm. Well, and I'm not hearing it's a slam dunk for Councillor Shortreed, and it's not exactly a slam dunk for me. Like I need to. I think I would rather hear. I know that Councillor Barry had some very serious thoughts about different fee structures, and this is maybe something that she would agree with, and I have no idea what Councillor Richards would say, but I think possibly maybe this is something that should be deferred so that we can have a little bit more of a fulsome discussion. I would hate for us to say no or go either way, without hearing from everybody. So can you go ahead?
And again, that's your call. That's fine. And I would look forward to hearing from others. I think it's worthy to note that there are plenty of other things that don't have a differentiated fee structure, which have to do with communities coming together. Like the Snowball Festival is not a differentiated fee structure because it's for all of us. I also think there's a difference between opportunity lost versus a taxpayer investment. So yes, I very much believe there should be and there is a differentiated fee structure for something like the Dorset Rec Center, because our taxpayers have put in millions of dollars already to get that place back up and running. But a trip up the tower, there's an opportunity cost there, but it's not that another taxpayer has in fact paid for that trip on their behalf. So I do see it differently, but I respect your desire to have a broader conversation with the others.
Well, and another aspect to the conversation would be, okay, maybe this is something that we wanted to offer to all Haliburton County library users as opposed to Lake Bay library. You know, it just, there's different aspects of this that could be considered. Councillor Shortreed?
So if you're if you live in Lake Bays, you can use the Dorset Library. Like it's reciprocal, you don't have to have a special. pass or
yeah,
anything
yeah.
like that.
Uh-huh.
So if they're available in the Haliburton County libraries, they could come to the Dorset Library and get a pass and go to the town from there.
That's correct.
So it would be to our county, but they could use it. Okay, that's a better perspective.
Also worthy to note that once something is within our library system, it is a county asset. So people from Dysart, from Minden Hills could absolutely use the passes because they are members of our library system.
Mr. Card?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mayor. Just to clarify, the recommendation in this report would be to offer passes to both Lake Bays Library and Haliburton County Public Library System.
Okay, I honestly, I think that this is something that might be better deferred until we're all here and can make a decision together. If that's acceptable to you. What have you got there for a resolution?
Be it resolved, council receives Park Record and Trails Report PRT 1426 regarding library patron passes for Dorset Tower for information, and the council defers this matter to a future meeting of council.
Can we have a mover and a seconder for that? Councillor Shortreed, Deputy Mayor Dayu. All in favor? Thank you. I'd rather defer it than say no.
I understand.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Take care.
To be continued. And next up is Environment and Stewardship Committee update. Morning. How are you this morning?
Good morning. Very well, thank you. I believe Deputy Mayor Dayu is going to speak to the Environment and Stewardship Committee.
Go ahead.
Great, if I may. Thanks. You've got a couple of sets of minutes here and one short proposal, which we had committed to bringing back to you before moving head on. And so it's here today. And the minutes very much just speak to this proposal. So I might just launch in here. The last time we discussed our plan for the summer, council raised 2 points regarding approaching the lake associations, one of which was the politicization, the potential appearance of politicization of the use of that time, given that we're in an election year, and the committee understands that concern and believes that so long as no one who is running for council speaks or participates in the events in the ward in which they are running, that there shouldn't be a problem there. The second concern raised by council was that lake associations are very invitation only events rather than broader public events, and we completely understand that. We think the build your own compost workshop and the demonstration sites and the social media work would be the balancing part to that, and would account for a considerably higher degree of the activity is the broader public events. The benefit of the Lake Association meetings is that it's an opportunity to speak to people who wouldn't naturally sign up for the broader events because maybe they just don't believe in composting. They don't believe it's possible. They don't want to do it. They've never been interested before for any number of reasons. People who are who are not keen are not going to sign up for a public demonstration. But wouldn't it be great to spend just 5 minutes chatting to them through the Lake Association meeting to try to see if they won't broaden their thinking on that a little bit more. So those are the two responses that we have to the two concerns outlined by council at the last meeting. Everything else is fairly as we suggested it would be. There would be the Lake Association meeting followed by a build your own composting workshop, ideally on a demonstration site. The demonstration site with council's approval would last throughout the summer, and then a decision would be taken in at the end of the season, what to do to either continue throughout the winter or to fold it all up then. And there would be very short videos taken at these demonstrations that we could then, with some gentle editing, flip onto social media to continue to encourage people to compost and do it simply in their own backyards in Algonquin Highlands. So that's our 4-point plan for council today.
Yeah, I'm still a little bit concerned about this. We had a fairly substantial conversation about this at our last meeting, and there was a decision made that we did not believe that it was a good idea to go to the Lake Association meetings. Nominations are open and will remain open for the bulk of the summer, and it doesn't preclude anybody from submitting their name at any time up until the end of, or almost the end of August, I guess, August 21st. So I still have a concern, and I believe that the other members of council had that same concern. It was my understanding that we had suggested that that was not, something that we would approve, but that we were very, very supportive of doing demonstrations in the three communities. And that would be, I hear what you're saying about that doesn't reach the same number of people, or might not reach the same number of people. But I think it depends on, how much information we put out there on social media and let people know. So, I have mixed feelings about this. I'm a little, having what I believed, council having made a decision at the last meeting about this, I'm a little disappointed to see it coming back, arguing the point.
If I may, I believe the council suggested here are our concerns, but there was no definitive decision to say, no, you cannot do it. So we discussed it and are coming back with responses to those concerns.
For me, it remains a concern. And as I said, I think it's a great idea doing the demonstrations in the three different communities. But as I say that, there's just, if it was last year, it would be a totally different discussion for me.
I just wonder if people running for council are not involved in those workshops, in those lake associations.
You don't know who's going to run for council. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Nominations are open, remain open until almost the end of August. You have no idea who's going to put their name forward. So it's hard to say that you're not going to be involved and that this isn't an opportunity to just be seen. And, kind of, put yourself, it's a concern that was raised by Councillor Richards. I think it was supported by Councillor Barry. And it's unfortunate that I can't really speak for them today. So I can't, I just, I mean, if the two of you want to say yes, go ahead, as previously discussed, that's fine. And this is part of the problem with trying to make decisions when there's three of us here.
And not knowing if, I don't know if anyone is going to run for council. Like, I guess that's a really valid issue, is, the unfairness. If there is somebody on the committee that is going to run to council, it's a little bit of a leg up.
It is, and aside from that, most lake associations have already set the dates and set their agendas, and it might be a bit late to be trying to organize that. I mean, it may not be as well, but I would like us to agree to go ahead with the three demonstrations, and let your committee start to work on that. Because that, you know, I mean, that's obviously a big enough project on its own to do that. And, you know, I think that that's you know, a welcome project for the committee. It's good to see that they want to do that.
And they can be ready for next year, like they can talk to all the lake associations, get them booked for next year, and then there's no gray area.
What do we have for a resolution there? I know that we need to approve the minutes, but with respect to do we have a separate resolution for the diversion plan?
The motion is to approve, or to receive the March 3rd and 31st, 2026 Environment Stewardship Committee minutes for information, and that council approve the summer 2026 plan, composting in cottage country as presented by the committee.
As amended then.
Yeah, we'd have to amend the, so that we would approve the demonstration projects in the 3 communities, but not necessarily, I'm not quite sure. You might need a moment to scribe, because I'm not hearing support for the lake associations. And this is something that absolutely the committee can start to work on this for next year for lake associations, if that's something that they want to do. And I can see them, you know, there'd be a number of them that probably would welcome this. It's just a matter of timing.
Read it again.
Sure.
It's amended. Be it resolved, council receives the March 3rd and 31st, 2026 Environment Stewardship Committee meeting minutes for information, and that council approves proceeding with the demonstrations in the 3 communities as presented by the committee.
All in favor? That's carried. I'm sorry, I know that you're disappointed, but. Next up is the Environment Services Activity Report.
Thank you. So just a couple of points to highlight. As was mentioned previously, we did have a significant weather event in March, and that did lead to some site closures. It was of advantage. We had a little bit of advance notification, and that really supported getting communication out. I realize that the trade-off of that is sometimes the impact of an event is less or maybe more than was forecast, but in this case, it was a real advantage to be able to get that information out, to have people prepared, regardless of what the actual full impact of it in the end was. So some people may have been disappointed if they happened to be in an area where the impact was less and they felt the site, you know, maybe could have operated. But the trade-off, as I say, the advantage to having that information out and for people to have advanced notification to be able to alter their plans. And then as well for our Public Works department to be able to have a plan in place as well so that they weren't having to possibly having to manage the site. So it was just a good, it was a well-coordinated event in that way. Just a couple of notes. I have mentioned our Circular Materials Ontario Municipal Working Group meeting, and there was an agreement that despite the fact that January 1st was the full transition of the Blue Box program to producer responsibility, we couldn't negate the fact that municipalities still have a significant role in the program, and that there still are some ongoing points of conversation. So Circular Materials is on board to continue having those meetings, maybe less frequently, but to continue that discussion, which is great, that they're willing to keep municipalities involved. They don't have an obligation to do that, but you know, they've certainly recognized that municipalities are a really important element to that program. And just a note with circular materials, I have had a couple of meetings with them in regards to promotion and education. So getting, information and messaging out about the changes to the program, and just so council is aware that is an evolving issue, and they have recognized, yes, that some work is still needed. And so they are very, very receptive to input and ideas. And so that's really nice to see. They've been very responsive when we've asked for materials, specific to depots or to our sorting requirements. So it was nice to have that. They're still working on signage, so that's our last sort of outstanding issue there. And just one, I just wanted to, it's not on part of my report and not related to March, but May 1st, we did a transition to summer hours at the landfill site, so. I'm happy to answer
Any
questions.
questions for Melissa? Hearing none, I just would, before we receive your report, I'd just like to thank you. I know that this has been a changing environment for you and a lot of challenges associated with it. So work well done. Could I have a mover and a seconder to receive the report? Councillor Short Reed and Deputy Mayor Dayoud.
Moved by Councillor Short Reed, seconded by Deputy Mayor Dayoud. Be it resolved, Council receives environmental report EB 1126 regarding March monthly activities for information.
All in favor? That's carried. So next up is Public Works. I'm just wondering if we want to go through all of the Public Works reports, or would you rather have coffee and then go through the Public Works reports? Okay, so let's take a 15-minute break instead of breaking in the middle when you're on a roll. And we'll be back at 10:15. Welcome back. Next up on the agenda is the Public Works business, and first up is the Airport Committee update. April 15th minutes. Any comment on that?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As far as the minutes, I was not there during that meeting, so there's really there was nothing in it when I read through it that was jumping out at me. We definitely are preparing for the fly-in that's coming, and what else is it here? I just seen it. The meeting that we have coming up this month as well.
Today,
Yes. Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's the committee meeting we have today, but the Regency meeting where they're going to be having the Transport Canada come in and do some training. So that's coming up this month as well. So we've been preparing for that as well. Yeah.
any questions on the minutes? Could I have a mover and a seconder then to receive the April 15th minutes? Councillor Shortreed, Deputy Mayor Dayu.
Moved by Councillor Shortreed, seconded by Deputy Mayor Dayu. Be it resolved, the April 15th, 2026 Airport Committee minutes be received for information.
All in favor? That's carried. So next up is the purchase of a lawn tractor.
Yes, thank you. So what I'm proposing here is that we purchase this lawn tractor from one of three Kubota dealers. The reason for the rationale behind wanting to go with the Kubota is that, well, we currently have all of our fleet is Kubota. And also when we look at training requirements and owner's manuals, we're trying to keep everything very similar so that a staff member can go from one piece of equipment into another without having to be retrained on it, if you will. Also, last year we had a trouble purchasing. When we went out for a proposal, we had trouble getting them back. We didn't really get any, so it was a sole source last year for Kubota. So I would like to just go straight to the three dealerships and ask for quotes, and then purchase the lowest one.
Any questions? Okay, could I have a mover and a seconder then to receive the report and approve the acquisition? Councillors Shortreed, Deputy Mayor Dayu.
Moved by Councillor Shortreed, seconded by Deputy Mayor Dayu. Be it resolved, Council receives Public Works Report PW 1426, lawn tractor purchase for information, and Council approves a sole source procurement for Kubota lawn tractor and authorizes staff to obtain quotations from three authorized Kubota dealerships, and Council authorized the purchase of the tractor from the lowest compliant bidder to an upset limit of 55,000, including applicable taxes, and further Council authorizes the CAO to execute any necessary agreements.
All in favor? That's carried. Next up is a report on the hangar lease rates.
Yes, thank you. Just as per an earlier meeting this year, it was talked about the lease rates of the airport and if we could take a look at them and see how we could maybe make increases to help offset some of the repairs and some of the things that we're seeing at the airport. So staff did that. And as you can see in the report here, we're very close to similar airports, but there is a lot of differences between our airport and the surrounding ones. And I've listed that in the report here, but things as you know, being able to supply food or different types of security or whether the hangars are heated or not, it is a great difference between what they would be charging for annual or monthly rent. So I wanted to share this information with you with the recommendation that we don't make any changes currently, but just as a reference, and that we would review it again in the fall before we do our fees and bylaw. And then if there was any questions or if there was anything that you would like staff to look into between now and then as well, I can add that to that final report.
And we're working on that supply of food.
Yeah.
Sounds like maybe we do have maybe one interested party.
That's correct. Yep.
Any questions on that? Okay, could I have a mover and a seconder then to receive your report? Deputy Mayor Dayu, Councillor Shortreed.
By Deputy Mayor, moved by Deputy Mayor Dayu, second by Councillor Shortreed. Be it resolved, Council receives Public Works Report PW 1526 hangar lease rate update for information.
All in favor? That's carried. Next is the Oxton Community Center Design Survey results.
Yes, thank you. So this was sent out for public review and let them, make their choices on what they thought was the best design out of the three. And it came back pretty unanimously that option 3 was the preferred design. And the key point to this one was that it pretty much leaves the front entrance as it is. And then it allows for a walkway to be installed on the side of the building, and then a entrance into the back of the building that would be accessible.
I'm sorry, I was trying to bring it up on my computer here. Option 3, if I'm not mistaken, it looked like when you walked into the new section at the back, you'd be walking into the washroom.
So that's the second part of this report was that with option 3, after further review of it, no, you don't walk directly into the bathroom. There is a hallway there. But after further review of it and taken into consideration, I think there was a comment in the survey as well, is that we would just like to flip the bathroom to the other side. We would just like to move the bathroom over to that open room, if you can see in the drawings there. And then we would remove the wall that goes into the bathroom, or the existing bathroom, let's say, the original. And then we would open that up to almost like a cove, if you will, that we can have a closet where coats and boots and things like that, with a seating area for you to sit down and take your boots off and whatnot. So that would be one of the designs that we would like to make change should this go forward.
Comments?
Yeah, it's lovely to see the consistency of thinking between the community and staff and council, and I really agree with the flip over of the washroom. It lands very nicely.
If I may, Mayor, also, I think it's really good to acknowledge the amount of uptake that this, it might not seem like a lot of people, but I think for that area and the people that are involved with the Oxton Community Center, I'd like to say thank you to them, and that, the survey had a lot of good comments back. I did read through all of them, and you're always hesitant putting surveys out that you get some pretty silly stuff back. And I didn't feel like we got any of that from this group. That a lot of their comments were very good, in the sense of, coming up with the idea of maybe a cover over top of it, which is a good idea, but very, very expensive. The switch of the bathroom was another one that we were on the same page with. So, you know what, it was just really good to see that the community involvement was, it did align with staff's thoughts as well. So that was really nice to see.
So maybe at some point in the future, we can do a cover on the walkway, but for now, it's, so next steps is like, this is just making us shovel ready for funding. Should we get it, or?
So this report is also recommending that we would now go and have Tulloch Engineering turn these drawings into actual documents that we could submit for a tender. Should something come up or a funding opportunity come up, we would have everything available. So yes, that's the request here would be to engage Tulloch Engineering to turn this to a shovel-ready project for us.
Okay, and then we're looking at option number 3.
That's correct.
Could I have a mover and a seconder? Deputy Mayor Dayou, Councillor Shortreed.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Dayou, seconded by Councillor Shortreed. Be it resolved, Council receives Public Works Report PW 1626, Oxton Community Center Design Survey results for information, and Council supports option 3 to relocate new main floor bathroom to the south side of the addition. And further, Council concurs with staff's recommendations to have Tulloch prepare detailed drawings suitable for tendering, with an upper limit of $10,000 to be funded from the Oxton Community Reserve to position the township to be ready for future funding opportunities.
All in favor? That's carried. Next is a report on service treatment tender results.
Yes, thank you. So unfortunately, I regret to inform you that we were, the project came in over budget for this year. So we have a couple options that I'd like to present council, and as they're listed in the report here, option one is to proceed with what has been projected for the costing of the surface treatment, which includes all the roads that are listed in this report. And then those would be funded from appropriate reserves. I would work closely with our finance department to ensure that we could cover those costs. Option two would be that we, based on our procurement policy, is that we would go into negotiations with our lowest bidder. And then option three would be to cancel the tender altogether and start over again. One of the downsides to canceling and starting all over again is that we would be on our own doing that. We would no longer have the assistance from the county.
And the likelihood of the project coming in even more expensive next time around is a
Exactly.
possibility.
Yeah, exactly.
Comments?
I'm good with option two.
Option two. Go ahead.
Yeah, option two, and should nothing change, then we just go ahead and we cover it all from reserves.
A mover and a seconder then. Councillor Shortreed, Deputy Mayor Dayu.
Moved by Councillor Shortreed, seconded by Deputy Mayor Dayu. Be it resolved, Council receives Public Works Report PW 1726 Service Treatment Results for Information, and Council selects option two as identified in the said report, and further Council hereby authorizes the CAO to sign any required agreements.
I wonder if we should add proceeding with the project, even if we're unsuccessful with negotiating reduced costs.
Through you, Mayor. I think that if that was the case, like if we go out to negotiate and they say no, that we would have to come back here and we would either have to start it all over again, or we would have to negotiate. We would have to discuss what those costs are and how council would want to move forward with that. I wouldn't feel comfortable myself, if they came back and said, no, we want to do something different that was above our current budget, then I would feel uncomfortable making that decision without your permission.
Okay. So all in favor? That's carried. Next is the air conditioning, procurement of air conditioning for the Dorset Rec Center.
Yes, thank you. So this is this report, I wrote the report and I'm presenting it today with the project manager. We were working together on this report, but the project manager is overseeing the AC unit project in general. But I'll answer anything that I possibly can, and if there's something I can't, we may have to bring the project manager in. But essentially, we set aside $50,000 in the budget to install heat units for AC in certain rooms of the DRC. And surprisingly, it actually came in quite under budget than what we were expecting. So it does. It is over our threshold that the policy allows for estimates, but we did receive three, and as the report says here, that we're looking to foresee that and then move into approving the lowest bid that we received.
Questions? Councillor Shortreed?
I'm all for the report. I just had a question out of curiosity more than anything. So we're putting in a heat pump. So they do supply heat in the winter. So that should hopefully reduce the cost of baseboard heating in DRC in the winter even a bit.
Yeah, I would have to say it's it's one of those things, either we see more hydro or we see more propane. It really will depend, but certainly if this will also give us the ability to, more than anything on the cooling side of it, is if a room's not being used, we're not cooling it. Therefore, we're being more efficient by turning it down. I would only presume that the heat side of it would be the exact same. If we're not using the room, then we don't need to, keep it at optimal temperature. We can turn it down.
Any other comments? Could I have a move and a seconder then to proceed as recommended? Deputy Mayor Dayu, Councillor Shortreed.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Dayu, seconded by Councillor Shortreed. Be it resolved, Council receives Public Works Report PW 1826 Dorset Recreation Center AC procurement for information, and Council set aside the requirement for a formal request for tender or request for proposal for the purchase of the purchasing policy and extend the limit of the request for quotation process and authorize the award of the project to the lowest quotation to Carlo Heating and Cooling Limited in the amount of $25,950, and that council directs this project be funded from reserves and the 2026 operating budget, and further council authorize the CAO to sign any necessary agreements.
All in favor? It's carried. And finally, hangar roof repair options.
Yes, thank you. Unfortunately, this is going to be a tough project to get through, but as noted in previous council meetings, we've identified that there's some roof issues on the new hangars. We really, unless you want to go into detail of those, we've kind of talked those out on what's happening. So we engaged Jewel Engineering to assist us with bringing in some credible contractors that are well-versed in steel roofing and design. And through that process, we've determined that we have two options in front of us for roof replacement. We have the MUM system, which is metal over metal, and then we have the traditional system, which would be removing the steel and then removing the insulation if it's needed to be removed, putting it back on, and then refastening the steel with a standing seam system. So regardless of the choice that you make today, whether it's the MUM system or a traditional system, it will have a standing seam, which means that there's no fasteners on the face of it. So it'll be different than what we currently have. Through that process, the MUM system is a retrofit system. It's been around for quite some time. And basically what they do is they have these fasteners that go on top of the existing roof. Now they don't fasten to the existing steel roof sheeting. It actually goes through the roof sheeting and it attaches to the structure of the building. That's why it can hold the new steel on top of it without it moving and whatnot. There's also a layer of insulation that will go between the existing steel and the new steel that helps increase insulation value, as well as removes any kind of condensation that would be building up underneath. It's a well-known system. It's highly recommended. But it is, this is a big project. So it does come with a lot of extras in it as well, as far as around the edges of the roof, flashing has to be redone, the downspouts, the eaves trough, things like that will need to be redone as well. So just keep in mind that the costs that I have set out here are very close, but as always, when we tender something, we're kind of at the will of what we receive in the tender. So what I'm presenting here is that staff are recommending that we would go with the MUM system, option number 2. And that in addition to that, before we can go ahead with the tender, what we would have to do is have an assessment done on all the buildings to ensure that they can handle the increased load. Now, it was brought to my attention actually by our CAO when we discussed this, that the buildings at one point were designed to have solar panels put on them. So we're pretty confident that it should handle the new roof on top of it. However, we do need to confirm that through this investigation. And then in addition to that, the MUM system also would not require disruption to our tenants. We'd be able to go right over top of it without having to ask them to leave. There's nothing that would fall through from the project through the building into the tenant's hangar. So I think that's a huge benefit on efficiencies of not losing any revenue from lease rates, and then not having to have them move out.
I really like the idea of no disruption to the tenants and should we go with the option that did cause disruptions, the problems that we could run into associated with that? Unlimited. So, I like the recommendation that you're making. Questions? Deputy Mayor Dayu?
Thanks, Adam. 2 questions. The humidity point, do you foresee that a solution to humidity would be built into the design of the new metal on metal? Okay, so that would come before you go ahead with the project.
Yes, through you, Mayor. So the idea is that once we get the engineer involved to do the assessment, I'm gonna ask them to do something as well for testing the building and figuring out what we can do with the humidity inside it. Whether that's each unit gets its own exhaust fan, or we can do one that goes through the whole building and exhausts. So that would also be part of the tender package. We would add that in there as an extra that we can remove that humidity or reduce it.
Go ahead.
Second question is with regards to the engineering assessment. Is that a desk calculation or would they be conducting physical tests on the building?
Through you, Mayor, they'll be coming out. I don't know the extent of how they test it, but I do know it's on site. They'll have to come out and they'll have to take measurements and go from there, yeah.
Okay, I've got to say the cost felt a bit high. But I guess it is what it is, but it did feel a little bit high, especially if they were effectively assessing calculations, you know, at their desk. But if they're coming out, that does change things a bit.
We can only hope that when, you know, when it goes out to tender, that it comes in below estimates. That, wouldn't that be nice?
It's always nice when we save money or we get those nice surprises.
Okay, I guess if we could have a mover and a seconder to move forward with the recommended plan. Councillor Shortreed, Deputy Mayor Dayu.
Moved by Councillor Shortreed, seconded by Deputy Mayor Dayu. Be it resolved, Council receives Public Works Report PW 2026 hangar roof repair options for information, and Council authorizes staff to engage a qualified engineer to assess the additional loads associated with the MUM system at an upset cost of $10,000 plus applicable tax, and further Council authorize the CAO to sign any necessary agreements.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next up is Fire Services. Morning, Chief.
Morning, Mayor and Council.
So the first up is your workplace violence, harassment, and sexual harassment.
Yes, I just want to highlight some of the changes that are made to our existing policy. The first change is we changed the title to include the sexual harassment part in the overall title. On the following page, under definition of worker, we actually added the Occupational Health and Safety Act reference number, so it's included in our policy now. Again, under definitions, we've added bullying to the workplace as a potential definition. Digital harassment and cyberbullying under the definitions, and added weapons to definitions. Changes the report form for employee acknowledgement form also is reflected with the sexual harassment added to it. And the overall policy has been reviewed by the department heads and brought forward to council.
Any questions? Go ahead.
I appreciate the additions. I think that's spot on.
Yep, appropriate. So could I have a mover and a seconder then to receive and adopt the policy? Deputy Mayor Dayu, Councillor Shortreed.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Dayu, seconded by Councillor Shortreed. Be it resolved, Council receives Fire Report FD 626 regarding the health and harassment policy for information. And further, Council has reviewed and updated the workplace violence, harassment, and sexual harassment policy in accordance with Section 25(2)J of the Occupational Health and Safety Act, RSO 1990, and directs the bylaw be tabled to adopt the revised policy.
All in favor? That's carried. Next is your updated tiered response agreement.
Yes, the tiered response agreement has not been updated since 2016. Included in this update is will be a yearly review going forward with the MS chief and the Algonquin Highlands for that. One of the major changes is new call priority system that EMS uses. So when they do the original call, they do further questions than they did before, and they rank it a color. And so, for example, red and purple is what used to be called code 4, which is a full emergency response, which include the fire department. And they get some situations now based on further questionings that it goes down to a yellow or a green. which in turn lowers the response level with themselves and if they notify us or not. So where that will make a difference, it could reduce our calls some, and that's based on patient history on the phone. Is as simple as chest pain. If they have a long history of angina, they might decide to not respond as a code 4 call. So and again, we rely on them, what their dispatchers to dispatch us appropriately. The other major change that doesn't directly affect us is going forward that the fire service will no longer be dispatched to retirement homes and places that have higher levels of medical training because it's redundancy because they are higher level. We are in that situation now already with our Algonquin Park agreement. And that's why a lot of calls in the park at camps we don't get dispatched to because they have a doctor on site all the time. So dispatching us in between till the EMS unit gets there is a redundancy that they don't require. And that's the basic overview. Everything else has changed the same. If it's a 20-minute delay, they call us. VSAs, obviously, any car accident that they've been dispatched to, it's a purple or red, will be called to. But we're also going to be called as part of our outside service through police and that for car accidents.
Any questions? Could I have a mover and a seconder then to receive and approve the updated response agreement? Deputy Mayor Dayu, Councillor Short-Reed.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Dayu, seconded by Councillor Short-Reed. Be it resolved, Council receives fire report FD 726 regarding the updated tiered response agreement with the County of Haliburton for information, and the Council directs a bylaw be tabled to adopt the updated agreement.
All in favor? That's carried. Your last report is about regulation, burn regulation signage.
Correct. The new signage, we actually have made one sample up so I can provide the picture to council that's in this report. It's a more clear, consistent messaging for the residents of Algonquin Highlands and our guests. Before, when we had low, medium, high, people always questioned what low was, what medium, and again, what high was. And if it was high and we got rain, all once we had to take it down to low. So it took a lot of staff time to go around and adjust all the signs. So the new signage has daytime burning in green, which would be anytime after November 1st till March 31st. But then it directly tells us nighttime burning from April 1st to October 31st. And it actually says from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. right on that. And then a total fire ban. And they're going to be located at every Welcome to Algonquin Highlands sign. So it's going to give us a lot more impact on the community. So every person that enters, they will see a sign coming into the into the township.
So you're asking for approval for these signs, but I see there's just the one opposite
Just the
example?
one was a sample so I could get a picture so I could forward it to you. We haven't had the other ones prepared yet, waiting for direction.
I took an opportunity to take a look at that particular sign. I wonder if it's large enough, I just, I see the arrow points to where we're at. But it's, when people are driving 80 kilometers down the highway, I wonder whether they're really going to see this. And, I kind of go back to the total fire ban signs that we used to put up. They were like out there, they were big, they were obvious, people could see there's no fires allowed. And I'm just wondering about, and maybe I'm the only one who's got a concern about the size of this sign and how clear it is to people. I mean, it's provides more information. There's clarity on, the different levels of burning that's allowed.
Under the MTO part 8 in their book, we can extend as far as the width of the sign. So we could add another approximately 6 inches to both ends, which would increase our signage
So
area.
you're saying you're limited in width, but
We can't go any wider than what the welcome banner is, but we can go deeper. So we can add a little bit to what we have for the sign.
any thoughts, Deputy Mayor Dayu?
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think the sign looks good, but indeed, when you're getting to the cottage and your only priority is getting to that
Yeah.
dock and seeing your family, I don't think this is going to call attention to in the way that we need it to call attention. So I agree. I think bigger is better. I don't know, when we get to total fire ban stage, if there is something in addition that we can do, put the total fire ban old signs back on
Definitely.
underneath.
We have them available for that.
Okay,
for
that
sure.
would be great, because that's a really serious time,
Mhm.
because that black arrow is fairly small. You have to be consciously and deliberately looking at the sign to find the information in order to absorb the information, because there's a lot going on in the sign. I do love the sign, but I do think we shouldn't hesitate to be bold, get that information out there, go bigger, and make sure that when it's fire ban, no one has an excuse to know or to say that they didn't know.
So it looks like if you can only go the width of the Welcome to Algonquin Highlands, we've got some room to make the signs wider, a little bit wider and deeper, so that they're more obvious. And I'm very glad to hear that, we have the total fire ban signs that we can put over that, because I think those are the most effective signs. I mean, there's no question about that.
For sure.
Go ahead.
I've also seen models where the information is vertical rather than horizontal. So there's more scope to get those big bold colors in the sign. And then there's a lot more scope for that arrow. The arrow gets a lot more space, and it goes from high to low rather than from left to right.
Correct. The one issue with that, it's a separate sign, so we have to get approval from the MTO for that. And there's a considerable delay in that happening. It could be from up to 12 months to get the approval.
Wow.
And that's why we're falling under the banner sign, the welcome banner, which it falls within those restrictions.
Well, we don't want to wait 12 months, that's for sure. But as long as we've got some room for making the sign wider and deeper, so that it's, it's clearer to people, and the ability to use the total fire ban. Councillor Shortreed.
And just thinking, you've got like 3 seconds to read it when you're driving. It's so minimal. And I'm not nitpicking, but the day burning and total fire ban in white, is that going to be harder to read than black on a sign when you're going by that fast? I don't know.
We can get them to put it, I can get a computer printout to see what it looks like
Yeah,
a different
just to
way.
see, because it has to be such a short, sweet. to be
You
able to
might
read
talk to
fast.
our communications coordinator about that, because when we did the communications plan,
Mhm.
I think he did a little bit of work on what stood out more. Just a thought,
For
we might
sure.
have some input into that. So I'm having a bit of trouble with the computer you're recommending that we proceed. I think you're hearing that, I guess we could pass a resolution to proceed with recommendations, including the recommendations from council. Sound okay? Mover and a seconder then to that effect. Deputy Mayor Dayu, Councillor Shortreed.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Dayu, seconded by Councillor Shortreed. Be it resolved, Council receives fire report FD 826 regarding the burn regulation information signage for the Township of Algonquin Highlands for information. And the council directs the size be increased to the maximum size permitted by the MTO, and further that during a total fire ban, the previous total fire ban signs be used.
All in favor? That's carried. One question and then a comment. I've heard that there have been some provincial changes in the requirements for captains. Additional training requirements. Is there any validity to that, and that the training would take quite some period of time? I just want to make sure that that's not going to have a negative impact on our service.
No, all our firefighters, all our captains will be totally certified in their position that they fill right now as of the middle of July.
I'm sorry,
They'll
will
all-
be?
There's a couple that are just completing their officer one, and once that's completed, they'll meet the requirements of the certification. So they're meeting everything that's planned. And unless it's related more back to the Forest Fire Prevention Act, which they require the officers to be certified. And all our fire officers have taken the SP 230 course. So we're well
Okay.
within the limits.
And the final comment that I wanted to make is that I know that last week was, there was a celebration of first responders week. I did make a point of going to at least one of our 3 stations. I just want to offer my sincere appreciation and thanks to all of the of our firefighters and to yourself for all of the good work that you do to protect us in our homes and our safety of our residents.
Thank you, and I'll pass that on to the firefighters.
Thank you. I did ask the one member that I spoke with at the fire hall to pass that on, but I'd be appreciative if he would do that as well.
Definitely.
And it was also nice to see the OPP there at the station,
Yes.
and even some guys in camo. That was-
Oh, were there?
Yep. I'm assuming those were auxiliary members, but yeah, no, it was good. It's always a good event. I guess that's it. Thank you,
Great.
sir.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
So nothing under finance, nothing under communications, under administration business. The Dorset Museum update. Any comments from you,
This is
Counselor?
from
Sure.
March. So they were working on a sign, which they're still working on, but they've made more progress. They're working on Heritage Day. We'll see in their next minutes that they do accept all the costs for the new pavilion. So the next meeting will be moving on that. Yep, just moving on as normal.
Okay. Any questions? Could I have a mover and a seconder then to receive the April 15th? Oh, no, sorry, that's airport. Well, I completely lost my place on the agenda. To receive the March 31st meeting minutes. Deputy Mayor Dayu, Councillor Short Reed.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Dayu, seconded by Councillor Shortreed. Be it resolved that the March 31st, 2026 Dorset Museum Committee meeting minutes be received for information.
All in favor? That's carried. Next is a respectful conduct policy.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As Council can see by the report and a draft policy, staff is recommending Council adopt a respective conduct policy. In recent years, there has been increased inappropriate behavior towards staff and council as well, in person and online. There were several incidents that occurred in 2025 that related to incivility and or harassment, including in person online. One particular event had a member of the public very upset, acting unreasonably, and threatened another member of staff. Because of that incident, our township solicitor did recommend that we have a respectful conduct policy in place. So attached is the draft. I just want to point out to council as well, it's important to note, as I identified in the report, this is not intended to deal with difficult individuals. This is to deal with individuals acting unreasonably, threatening individuals like that. This policy does give the CAO and council the tools to implement restrictions should bad behavior occur. Obviously, if it's an emergency, 911 is called.
Mhm.
Staff, each incident would be handled differently. The CAO obviously would be involved. The first step would be have a discussion with the person or send a letter, depending on the severity of the incident. As noted in the report, AMCTO did release a harassment and incivility survey, and the report came back and it did show a high level of a need for municipal staff to have protections in response to these issues. And it's an ongoing topic for many sessions that I've attended recently, not related to incivility, and it may not be even on the agenda, but it seems to be coming up quite often at anything we attend. So I have attached the draft policy for council's consideration. The CAO has reviewed it along with all department heads. And it does line up with council's strategic plan to be recognized as an employer that attracts, supports, and retains talented and dedicated staff, as well as council's commitment under the Occupational Health and Safety Act and the Corporate Health and Safety Policy.
Thanks for your work on this. You know, this is a pretty substantial policy and you know, at first looked at it, I thought, wow, this is pretty hardcore, but you know, unfortunately, it seems that it's necessary. You know, I hate to think of, you know, any member of the public literally threatening any member of staff. And I do know that members of council have been physically threatened and verbally threatened. So, you know, unfortunately, it's something that, you know, I can see the need for. The one question that I would have is, where's the line? Where do you draw the line between, I mean, we know that we have some challenging residents to deal with, you know, on a regular basis. Where's the line? Like, how do we determine exactly where it goes from this person is just regularly a challenge to this person is harassing us?
Well, I think that's up to, there are examples in the policy and staff is well aware of behaviors. It would come down to a discussion with the department head, the staff member, and the CAO, of course. And it is outlined in the policy.
Mhm.
There is an appeal process as well for the individual that can appeal any decisions or restrictions that may be put on them. So it is going to come down to realizing what is harassment. And I think staff is well aware of behaviors and what crosses the line.
Questions, comments? Deputy Mayor Dayu?
I guess my first question is, how does this fit in with Freedom of Information Act and someone's ability to solicit information? I know, you know, one of the examples given in the report in the policy is, you know, asking for information they've already received. Are we going to hit against a ceiling with higher levels of legislation that says, you know, no, they can continue to do it, or
Well, with regard to MFIPA, someone was to file an FOI, there are provisions under that legislation that allows for frivolous and vexatious. It is a very high bar to reach. However, it can be used. So they're welcome. Anybody can do that. And then staff would act under that act and apply any provisions that we felt necessary.
Yeah.
And then the IPC has an appeal process for that.
I'm sure there has probably been from time to time, times when you've thought that that threshold had been reached. Anyway, that's just an aside. Another question that I've got is, how do you deal with online issues? Same process? Like if you see something that somebody's saying something is totally inappropriate online, we deal with it the same way.
We would deal with it the same way. We have no control over their postings if it's a personal, but there are ways to address depending on the severity and what kind of harassment and what's being said about a staff member.
Any other questions or comments? Deputy Mayor Dayu?
it's a pretty thorough policy, and I think it's one of those ones that we just have to see in the first couple of years how it goes. And then
Exactly.
if, you know, if you need to refine to make things clearer, then that happens. But we
Absolutely.
just won't know until we start to implement it.
And hopefully we don't have to.
That's right.
Okay, could I have a mover and a seconder then to receive the report and adopt the policy? Deputy Mayor Dayu, Councillor Short-Reed.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Dayu, seconded by Councillor Short-Reed. Be it resolved, Council receives clerk report CO 14/2026 regarding proposed respectful conduct policy, and that Council directs a bylaw be brought forward to adopt the respectful conduct policy.
All in favor? That's carried. Next is the Joint Compliance Audit Committee.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. As required in an election year, Council must appoint a joint compliance audit committee for the next term of Council. So before Council is the recommendation of the members, as well as the terms of reference and delegated authority for staff to bring names going forward, as sometimes it's a challenge to recruit members for this committee. So staff is asking for the authority just to bring any names forward without a report, just straight to bylaw. And also, should it be needed, to select an auditor for any compliance committee applications.
When you say that this is for the term, the next term of council from 26 to 30, like I understood that this was basically more associated directly with procedures that are, or things that are happening during the course of the election, and, you know, from nominations through to election, and reporting, financial reporting after that.
Yes, it is for strictly for the financial reporting. Any minute, once council, sorry, once the candidates file their financial form fours, they are posted publicly. Any member of the public can call for a compliance audit committee. And the committee's in place for the 4 years, because if there are any by-elections, then that's why it extends past the usual deadlines.
Okay. Questions? Um, so could I have a mover and a seconder to receive the report? And move forward. Deputy Mayor Dayu, Councillor Shortreed.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Dayu, second by Councillor Shortreed. Be it resolved, council received clerk's report 1526 regarding joint compliance audit committee for the 2026-2030 term of council, and council appoints the recommended members to the committee and adopts the terms of reference and procedures, and council, and that the clerk be delegated authority in consultation with the lower tier clerks to present directly to council bylaws to appoint any future members or alternate members to the joint compliance audit committee as required, and the clerk be authorized in consultation with the CIO and treasurer to select and appoint an auditor licensed under the Public Accounting Act if required for the purpose of conducting an audit in response to an application received by the Joint Compliance Audit Committee, and further that a bylaw be brought forward appointing members to the Joint Compliance Audit Committee, adopt the terms of reference for the committee, and providing delegated authority for the appointment of an auditor to conduct compliance audits.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you for your work on that.
Sure.
Next is the road naming bylaw update. I think we've just got one new name.
Yes, it's just Hawk Valley Road has now been added to our road naming system and the index.
Okay. Any questions? Could I have a mover and a seconder then to receive the report? I'm assuming that would be under the bylaw section as well.
Yes, it will be.
Deputy Mayor Dayu, Councillor Shortreed.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Dayu, seconded by Councillor Shortreed. Be it resolved, council receives report CO 16 regarding the road naming bylaw for information, and that council directs the bylaw be brought forward for approval.
All in favor? That's carried. And finally, given that the AMO conference is coming up, are there any suggestions for delegations that need to be made at that time? I'm losing faith with delegations at conferences. I hate to say it, but. Okay, so could I have a mover and a seconder then to receive the report? Councillor Shortreed, Deputy Mayor Dayu.
Moved by Councillor Shortreed, seconded by Deputy Mayor Dayu. Be it resolved, council receives correspondence regarding Association of Municipalities of Ontario, AMO, conference request for delegations for information.
All in favor? That's carried. The next up is planning. And good morning, Mr. O'Callaghan.
Morning, Mayor and Council.
So first up is the proposed shore road allowance closing by Stevens on in the Township of Sherburne, Hollow River.
Thank you. Yes, this is an application to close the shore road allowance in front of this property. It was identified as part of a short-term rental application, so the applicant has also applied for their license of occupation. But as part of that process, they do need to apply to actually purchase that shore road allowance, so staff are recommending approval.
Any questions? Could I have a mover and a seconder then to grant approval in principle? Deputy Mayor Dayu, Councillor Shortreed.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Dayu, seconded by Councillor Shortreed. Be it resolved, council receives report PL 3826 regarding proposed shore road allowance closing fronting property located at part of Lot 3, Concession 12, Geographic Township of Sherburne, Stevens, and Hollow River. The council approves in principle application OSRA 1026 made to stop up closing of the said shore road allowance, and that the applicants are requested to proceed in accordance with the shoreline road allowance closing procedure.
All in favor? That's carried. Just a question. I know we haven't received a whole lot of licenses of occupation applications, but I guess I'm looking to find out if more of them are for buildings like bunkies or gazebos, or are most of them just for docks?
So with respect to this previous application, this was for a house that was located on the shore road allowance, but it was because of the short-term rental application. So that's a separate license of
Mhm.
occupation versus the one that's strictly for docks and shoreline structures.
So the applications that we have received for licenses of occupation are some of them for buildings, or are most of them just for docks? Maybe it's unfair to ask that question.
So the ones we've received under the first license of occupation policy that was passed by council, those were for docks specifically. For the short-term rental licenses of occupation, those
they're-
have to be
they're
a
different.
dwelling. Those are the only things that would trigger the requirement for a license of occupation.
Okay, thank you. So the next application is for a shore road allowance closing in Stanhope on Kabakwa Lake.
Thank you. Yes, this is an application that we've received for the shore road allowance closure in front of what's known as Camp Candelore. As council will recall, the representatives of the camp were at a previous council meeting outlining their proposal and a request to council to waive the purchase costs of the land. So now that we've received the application, I'm bringing this forward for council consideration. I've detailed in my report the anticipated costs of purchasing the lands, which is just over $175,000 plus HST at the current rate of 70 cents a square foot. I've also noted there are several structures on the camp property that are part of the camp that are located on the shore road allowance. However, they are quite old structures that would be a legal standing or in good standing with the township. So there's no outstanding orders or anything with respect to those. The survey also identifies a number of rights of ways that cross the camp property leading to the shore road allowance, as well as a portage route. So staff are recommending approval of the application. I have included a condition that the rights of ways and portage be maintained or addressed to the satisfaction of the township to ensure there's no impact to those as a result of the closing of the shore road allowance. With respect to their request to waive the fee, I would have to defer to council to see how they wish to proceed in that manner.
Thank you. In my estimation, the waiving of fees is a very serious precedent, and I think would have long-term consequences. And I'm a solid no on waiving that fee. Comments? Councillor Shortreed?
I agree 100%.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, can I have a mover and a seconder then to move forward with the application on the condition that the fees not be waived? Deputy Mayor Dayu, Councillor Shortreed. One question I would ask, do you anticipate that for the buildings that are on the shore road allowance, if they're to be reconstructed, or they would then absolutely have to move forward with acquisition of the shore road allowance?
Yes, that's correct. For us to be able to issue a building permit under today's bylaws and regulations, that is a requirement for the land to be owned by the person applying.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Dayu, seconded by Councillor Shortreed. Be it resolved, council receives report PL 3926 regarding the proposed shore road allowance closing fronting property located at part of lots 3 and 4, concession 9 and 10, geographic township of Stanhope, Kabakwa Lake, and that council approves in principle application OSRA 1126 made to stop up closing of the said shore road allowance and that council denies the request to waive the fees for the purchase of the shore road allowance, and that the applicants are requested to proceed in accordance with the shoreline road allowance closing procedure, and further that those rights of way and portage identified on the draft plan being maintained or addressed to the satisfaction of the township.
All in favor? It's carried. Finally, a proposed severance agreement by Rose and Salna in the Township of Sherburne, Quagama Lake.
Thank you. This was an application that was for a severance of a property on Quagma Lake. A number of conditions were attached to it, one of which being a severance agreement being registered on title to register any recommendations of the environmental impact study and the site plan that was prepared for the property as well. So this is just the agreement that's coming forward and authorizing the mayor and clerk to enter into that agreement with the property owner.
Any questions? Could I have a mover and a seconder then to approve? Deputy Mayor Dayu, Councillor Short-Reed.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Dayu, seconded by Councillor Short-Reed. Be it resolved, council receives planning report PL 4D26 regarding severance agreement for part of Lot 16, Concession 10, Geographic Township of Sherburne, Rose and Salna for information, and council directs a bylaw be tabled authorizing the mayor and clerk to sign the agreement.
All in favor? That's carried. Finally, the Committee of Adjustment minutes from April the 24th. Any questions or concerns about those minutes? Could I have a mover and a seconder then to approve them? Deputy Mayor Dayu, Councillor Short-Reed.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Dayu, seconded by Councillor Short-Reed. Be it resolved that council receives the Committee of Adjustment meeting minutes dated April 24th, 2026 for information.
All in favor? That's carried. Next, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. Next are the external board meetings. Any updates on the Dorset Community Partnership or Health Hub?
Unfortunately, they are currently having the meeting right now, so I will find out
Oh,
at a later time and date what
well,
actually
we
happened.
look forward to hearing about that at the next meeting, hopefully. So Councillor Richards is away, so we can't deal with any of those issues. I think we could take the item E maybe off the list on the agenda going forward, since how we have received the report. The County OVP Detachment Board, I am most disappointed to say that once again, our detachment commander has been seconded to another location, another role. And I wrote to our chair of the detachment board, wrote to advise us of that. And I wrote back voicing my strong disappointment in hearing that it happens far too often. It seems like every time we get a new detachment commander, they move them. And I copied all on my response, and I'm pleased to say that I did get a response from the detachment commander who said, look, I really and truly, she's purchased property in the county. She will do everything she can in her power to be gone for as short a period of time as possible, that she has every intention of returning, and that she will be keeping an extremely close eye on the, on the person who's going to be covering for her in her absence. It just happens over and over and over again. And, I know that there's a lot of, shifting of responsibilities within the OPP, but it just seems like we're open season. Anyway, that's otherwise all is well. Anything on the Muskoka River Watershed Communications? Oh, I left out. Let's go with the library board first. Anything from the library board?
No, nothing on the library, from the library board at the minute.
Okay, community safety and well-being.
We had a really great day-long workshop. I guess it was last week, the No Wrong Doors workshop. And there were, the room was packed. There were easily 80 or 100 people there who were representing all agencies or most agencies that operate within the county to offer critical support services, to children and vulnerable families and on mental health and the whole social support structure. Many of them were represented, including, I was pleased to note, a few people who are based out of Peterborough or based out of somewhere south of here and who have actually not been to Halliburton before. So they oversee offices that support Halliburton, but this was their first opportunity to see it in the flesh. And I think they got a very immediate sense of how different it is to offer services when we are as remote and spread out as we are. So it was a great day, lots of good insights and ideas. Looking forward to the report coming back.
The only question that I would have is that because I see that one of the places that people can go for information are the libraries. Are the libraries attendance just applied with a list of contact information, or do you see that having any substantial impact on their workload?
I can't answer that. That's a good question for the, the CAO who would understand the operations a little bit better. I know that with the no wrong door approach, the idea is to enable them with to have as much information as they need. And the minimum, which we're working on right now, is an up-to-date physical typed out list with all of the different contacts they require that they can have right there at their at their computer side. But all impacts on staff time, etc. I think that's a very good question to ask the CEO of the library.
I mean, it's one thing for somebody to, to call and ask, who do I get in touch with? It's another thing when faced with, someone who's in distress and they're right there in front of the, the person, and being able to deal with that is challenging. Yeah, it'd be good to hear, anything coming back on that.
If I might, I do know that across the board in Ontario, library staff are seeing a massive uptick of that to the degree that the Ontario Library Association is structuring its advocacy campaign this year around informing the province that there are these impacts, that we're seeing it far more often. Critical needs coming into the library, emergency service requests to come into the library to support patrons or others who have come in because they need a warm space. That is definitely on the up. But I just can't respond about the details of Halliburton. I know we're seeing it in Halliburton. Yeah.
Anything on Muskoka River watershed?
There has been some flood concerns recently, as you may be aware, but the Muskoka River watershed, as we know, was not hit as badly as further south. And so at the minute, all is well.
As far as county council updates, I'm not sure that there's too much to bring forward, other than that I do know that the request on the governance study, the request has come from the consultants to the CAOs requesting the information that they need to work to move forward with the study. I would acknowledge that it is a substantial list of information that they're looking for, and that it is going to be a challenge. And I just want to appreciate, the work that's required by staff, while seeing at the same time how important it is that we provide the information as soon as we can, in efforts of making sure that the public knows what's going on, that the public has the information during the election process, and we can move forward. I feel for all staff. Other than that, I don't know that there's anything, we have a county council meeting next week. Anything comes from that, we'll report back. Are there any notices of motion? Were any of the correspondence items commented on? Could I then have a mover and a seconder to receive the correspondence listing? Deputy Mayor Dayu, Councillor Shortreed.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Dayu, seconded by Councillor Shortreed. Be it resolved that Council receives the May 7th, 2026 correspondence listing for information.
All in favor? That's carried. Next up are bylaws. Could I have a mover and a seconder to receive the list of bylaws and approve them? Deputy Mayor Dayu, Councillor Shortreed.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Dayu, seconded by Councillor Shortreed. Be it resolved the following bylaws be received and read a first time, considered read a second and third time, and finally passed with a corporate seal affixed. 2026-45 to appoint a joint compliance audit committee with respect to the 2026 municipal election. 2026-46 to provide for the naming of all public and private roads in the Township of Algonquin Highlands. 2026-47 to adopt a violence, harassment, and sexual harassment policy for the Township of Algonquin Highlands. 2026-48 to authorize the execution of a tiered response agreement with the County of Halliburton. 2026-49 to adopt a respectful conduct policy. 2026-50 to authorize the execution of a consent agreement with Rose Salma.
All in favor? That's carried. Could I have a mover and a seconder for the confirmatory bylaw? Councillor Shortreed, Deputy Mayor Dayu.
Moved by Councillor Shortreed, seconded by Deputy Mayor Dayu. Be it resolved that bylaw 2026-51, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council held during its regular meeting on May 7th, 2026, be received and read a first time, considered read a second and third time, and finally passed with the corporate seal affixed.
All in favor? And finally, a motion to adjourn. Deputy Mayor Dayu, Councillor Shortreed.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Dayu, seconded by Councillor Shortreed. Be it resolved that the meeting is hereby adjourned at 11:23 a.m.
All in favor? It's carried.